Imagine this. You're late for work, your coffee is falling off the table, your phone is at 1%, and for some reason, today is the day the universe decides to give you a superpower. You snap your fingers, and everything stops. The coffee hangs in the air. A bird outside your window freezes between two wing beats. Cars stop in the middle of the street. People become statues. The clock on the wall doesn't move. For the first few seconds, it probably feels incredible. No deadlines, no traffic, no waiting. You could sleep for 8 hours and return 1 second later. You could read every book in a library while the rest of the world doesn't age a millisecond. You would finally have the one thing everyone says they want more of: time. Except there's a problem. Actually, there are a lot of problems. Because if you truly stopped time, you probably wouldn't get to enjoy any of it. Let's define the power carefully, because saying time stops is actually much stranger than it sounds. Real physics doesn't give us a button that freezes one universal clock. Relativity can make clocks run at different rates relative to different observers, but that's very different from pressing pause on the entire universe. So for this thought experiment, we'll give you some magic. Your body continues functioning normally. Your heart beats, your brain works, your muscles move. But everything outside you stops changing. Ready? Snap. The world freezes. And one of your first problems is light. You don't see objects directly. You see light that reaches your eyes after interacting with those objects. Photoreceptors in your retina respond when they absorb photons and convert that interaction into neural signals. But now the outside world isn't progressing. Light isn't carrying new information toward you. No new photons travel from the lamp to the wall, from the wall to your eyes. There might be an unimaginably brief transition from whatever light was already interacting with your eyes when you stopped everything. And then, no continuously arriving image, no moving scene, no frozen world to admire, just darkness. Which is slightly disappointing. You finally stop time, and you can't even see the cool part. Fine, maybe you can handle darkness. You reach for the wall, you move slowly. You listen for something. Nothing. Not quiet. Not the kind of quiet you hear at 3 in the morning. Actual silence. Sound is mechanical. A sound creates changes in pressure that propagate through a medium, and your inner ear converts mechanical vibration into neural signals. But pressure waves require change. One region of air pushes another, then another, then another. That's how someone's voice reaches you. That's how footsteps reach you. That's how music reaches you. Freeze the evolution of the air, and the wave can't propagate. The conversation someone was having beside you stops halfway between their mouth and your ear. A car horn frozen in the street produces nothing new for you to hear. The bird outside remains perfectly silent. Your world has now lost two things: light and sound. And somehow, those aren't even your biggest problems. Your chest expands. You inhale. Or at least, you try to. Normal breathing works because pressure differences produce airflow between the atmosphere and your lungs. Fresh gas enters, and oxygen ultimately diffuses across the lungs' gas exchange surfaces. But the air around you is part of the frozen universe. And now we hit our first serious contradiction. If the molecules outside you are truly unable to change their state, how are they supposed to enter your lungs? They have to move. They have to collide. They have to flow through your nose and airway. Your magical power has two options. Either the air remains frozen, in which case breathing becomes impossible, or air is allowed to move when you interact with it. But if that's true, time isn't really frozen anymore, at least not for the air. So let's upgrade your power. You don't freeze everything. Instead, you carry a tiny zone of normal time around your body. A bubble. Inside the bubble, physics works normally. Your eyes work, the air moves, your body can breathe. Problem solved, right? Absolutely not. Let's make the bubble 1 meter around you. Now you have some air, some light, maybe enough room to move your arms. But what happens when you walk? The bubble moves with you. New air enters the bubble. New dust enters. New sections of the floor enter. photons cross the boundary. Every object you approach goes from stopped to moving to stopped again after you pass. Your superpower is no longer stop time. You're dragging a moving piece of time through a frozen universe. And suddenly, the boundary of that bubble becomes the most dangerous place imaginable. Because what exactly happens there? Suppose a raindrop is frozen in front of you. You walk toward it. The instant it enters your bubble, does it continue falling? Its velocity returns? Does gravity suddenly begin affecting it again? What about a flying bullet? What about a spinning fan? What about a car traveling at highway speed? From your perspective, they're frozen. But the moment your bubble touches them, you have just told physics to continue. That could be a very bad surprise. Even something as simple as walking becomes difficult to define. When you step on the ground, your foot pushes against it. Atoms interact. Forces are transmitted. Your body gets pushed back upward. That's what lets you stand rather than fall straight through the floor. But if the floor is completely forbidden from evolving, what does pushing against it even mean? If nothing outside you can respond to anything, then touching the frozen world becomes impossible in the normal sense. So your magical bubble has to include the floor too, at least the tiny region under your feet. Now every step briefly restarts part of Earth. You lift your foot, that region freezes again. You take another step, another patch begins experiencing time. You wanted to pause the universe so you could walk around freely. Instead, you're painting a trail of active physics wherever you go. And we still haven't tried opening a door. Because the door needs to move, so it needs time. The handle needs to rotate, so it needs time. Your clothes need to deform when you walk, so they need time. Your shoes need to bend. Your hair moves. Your lungs move. Blood moves. Electrical signals move through your nervous system. The more closely you look, the harder it becomes to decide where you end and the frozen universe begins. Now suppose there's another person standing in front of you, frozen halfway through a sentence. You want to move them, maybe just pull them away from danger. But if they're truly frozen, their body can't respond to your touch. Their skin can't deform. Their joints can't move. Their clothes can't bend. So once again, the power must cheat. The moment you touch them, part of them has to enter your bubble. And now we get a much stranger question. How much? Just their skin? Their arm? Their entire body? Because if their entire body restarts, their heart starts beating, blood moves, neurons fire, their brain begins functioning again. Meaning, potentially, so do they. Imagine being frozen without knowing it. Then, for half a second, someone touches your shoulder. You wake up in a completely silent, dark world. You see a person standing beside you. Then they let go. And from your perspective, nothing happens. Because you're frozen again. Maybe hours pass for them. Maybe years. Maybe they travel across the planet. And then one day they touch you again. For you, those two moments could feel almost consecutive. For them, an entire lifetime may have happened in between. Stopping time stops feeling like a superpower. It starts feeling like being the only person left awake in the universe. And there's another thing your bubble needs to deal with. Heat. Your body is not a machine that runs for free. Cells metabolize energy. Your organs work, your muscles contract, your brain consumes energy. And all of this produces heat. Normally, your body exchanges heat with its surroundings through several mechanisms. But if your bubble is effectively isolated from the frozen world, where does that heat go? If infrared radiation leaves your skin and reaches the edge of the bubble, can it continue traveling? If warm air reaches the boundary, can it mix with frozen air? Can sweat evaporate into a region where molecules aren't allowed to evolve? Once again, you have two choices. Either energy can cross the boundary, meaning the outside universe is interacting with you, or it can't, meaning you are gradually trapping the consequences of your own metabolism inside your little island of time. You solved suffocation. Now you've built yourself a thermos, with you inside it. Fine, enough tiny bubbles. Let's make it enormous. Your house is inside. Now you have air, lights, food, water. Your computer works. Great. except electricity has to flow through power lines outside the house. So include the power station. But the power station needs fuel. It needs a grid. It needs equipment. It needs operators. Okay, make the bubble cover the whole city. Now the water system needs reservoirs. Communication networks need servers somewhere else. GPS needs satellites. The internet connects machines across continents. Make the bubble cover the entire Earth. Perfect! Except sunlight comes from the sun, so include the sun. And if the Earth continues orbiting while the rest of the solar system is frozen, you've created another impossible problem. So include the solar system. Then gravity connects objects across space. Light arrives from distant stars. Fields extend far beyond your local neighborhood. The bigger your bubble becomes, the more obvious the answer gets. To preserve everything you casually rely on, you eventually have to restart almost everything. And once you've restarted almost everything, congratulations! You've reinvented normal time. And this is the strange part. When people imagine stopping time, they usually don't actually want time to stop. They want something much more specific. They want everyone else to wait, while the universe continues working for them. They still want light to reach their eyes. They want oxygen to enter their lungs. They want the ground to support their feet. Doors should open. Food should move. Computers should work. Their clothes should bend. Objects should respond when touched. But clocks shouldn't advance. People shouldn't notice. Nothing should age. Nothing should change unless they personally want it to. That's not stopping time. That's asking the universe to distinguish between changes you need and changes you don't, which is a far more absurd power. You're not controlling time anymore. You're rewriting cause and effect. So let's return to that first moment. You're standing beside the table. The coffee starts falling. You smile. You finally have the power you've always wanted. You snap your fingers. Everything stops. No sound, no new light, no moving air, no ordinary world waiting for you to explore it, just a universe that has stopped doing all the invisible things that made your existence possible. And maybe that's what makes stopping time such a fascinating fantasy. We imagine time as the enemy, something constantly stealing moments from us, making us older, making us late, taking people away. So naturally, we dream about turning it off. But almost everything we experience exists because things are allowed to change. Light moves, air moves, atoms vibrate, signals travel, hearts beat, brains think. Time isn't just the clock counting down in the corner. It's woven into every process that lets you notice the clock at all. So if one day you somehow gain the ability to freeze time with a snap of your fingers, maybe don't do it. Or at least, take a very deep breath first, because it might be the last normal breath the universe gives you.